found this family Bible. I don't know if this is a big tradition anymore, but remember the family Bible that maybe your grandparents had? All the birthdays, all the weddings, all the important things were stuffed in this Bible. Anyway, this kid is flipping through this Bible, and it's fairly large. He's flipping through this Bible, and out falls a leaf, a dry leaf. He picks it up, looks at it. His eyes get about that big around. He starts yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!" And he runs to where his mom's at, and he says, "I found Adam's suit!" We have been talking about God's story over the last several weeks, and we started out in the beginning with Adam and Eve, and we've told all these stories through Judges and Kings and the fall of Israel, the fall of Judah. This week, we come to Daniel. This is one of my favorite books. I spent about 13 weeks in school going through this book. It is such a great book. I love it. Last week, Ben talked about Judah and how Jeremiah was warning them that if they don't keep track of what they're doing, if they don't pay attention to what God has told them to do, bad things are going to happen. Bad things to the effect that they're going to be stripped out of their land. For this week, we come to about 605 BC. And I don't want to bog you down with lots of numbers or anything like that. This time frame is about 605 BC. And the king in Babylon is Nebuchadnezzar. And God allows Nebuchadnezzar to come into Judah and siege Judah. Nebuchadnezzar sends his army, and then the army, I imagine his army just coming in, going door to door, taking captive after captive after captive, taking the best of the best. They're taking men, women, young children, teenagers, everybody, the best of the best. They're ransacking all of the important buildings. They're destroying. They go in the temple, tabernacle, and they take out all of the artifacts that the Hebrews used to worship God. And they take them back to Babylon. So, among these people that they have gathered up, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 people this first time, are 4 guys. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Daniel. Daniel's wife, yeah. Well, he didn't get the name of the book, so, I mean, he deserves double credit, right? So these guys, the army captures all these guys. These 4 kids, okay? They may be as young as 14, 15 years old. So these 4 guys are captured by Nebuchadnezzar's army. They have no idea what's going on. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to be. They don't know if when they get to Babylon that they're going to have a life. I mean, really, a life. I mean, they don't know if they're going to be killed when they get there. They don't know anything. And this trip, after they are stripped from their land, they're stripped from their family, they have no idea what they're doing. This trip isn't just an overnight trip. This isn't just a couple of days. If you look in the cover of your book, you can see where Jerusalem is, kind of in the middle of the page. And you can see where Babylon is. So they would have had to travel way north, and then go over and travel down south to Babylon. So this trip takes a while. And these kids, they don't know what's going on. They don't know, they don't have a place to go. They're surrounded by the army. I can just imagine that they're worried. But even in this struggle, in this difficult time, these kids remain loyal to God. They remain to the point of honoring God in everything that they did. These kids are ripped out of their land, and they become strangers in a foreign country. In 1 Peter, Peter writes, 1:1, he talks about, we are strangers. We are not of this world. Our home is not here. Our home is not Emmett. It's not Boise. It's not Middleton. It's not Meridian. Our home is with Jesus in the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem, the one yet to come. We are strangers here in this land. We are strangers in this culture, just like Daniel and his 3 friends. And we are called to be in this world, just like Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, and Azariah. They were forced to be in this foreign land of Babylon, but they didn't have to be of Babylon. They didn't have to conform. And that's what we're called to do as we are in this strange land. We're in a foreign country. So Daniel and his friends finally make it to Babylon. And when they arrive, the king says, all the treasures and everything that you took from the temple of God, I want you to go throw them in this closet with the rest of the artifacts that I have for my God. So not only was he stealing these articles, but he was taking God from up here down here to nothing, like his God. If you'll turn with me in your book, if you have it with you, to page 249. And if you don't and you have your Bible, turn to Daniel 1, verse 3. I want to read what happens when they get to the land, to Babylon. Then the king ordered his chief of courts official to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. Young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and the literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them daily food amounts and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were going to enter into the king's service. Among those who were chosen were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So this is the first thing that King Nebuchadnezzar is doing with these guys. He's trying to make them into Babylonians. He is teaching them the culture, he's teaching them the language, he is teaching them the history and all the literature. He's trying to brainwash these kids into being Babylonians so that they will serve him instead of the people that the country that they came from. King Nebuchadnezzar wants them to become Babylonians and to serve him. One of the first things that they did after this was a chief. He said, okay, these Hebrew names, they've got to go. You guys are Babylonians now. So you need Babylonian names. And the names that he gave them was he gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar. He gave Hananiah the name Shadrach, Mishael, Meshach, and Azariah he gave Abednego. Good Babylonian names. That was another way that he was trying to brainwash them into becoming Babylonians. And you heard in the story that the king gave them food from his table. Now, I can imagine Daniel and his friends sitting at this table. And out comes all this food. Okay, imagine this with me. The best food you've ever seen in your life. The best tasting. It was the king's food. And the king's wine. I can just see, like, prime rib, maybe steak and lobster, maybe all you can eat shrimp. I don't know. So you got all this great food sitting in front of these 4 guys. And they're here and they're thinking, God told Moses, we are not allowed to eat this kind of food. What are we going to do? So Daniel approaches the chief of the courts that's over them. He says, hey, is there any way that you can just give us vegetables and water to eat? 10 days. 10 days is all that I ask. Just vegetables and water. But the chief, he's thinking, this isn't a good idea. The king has charged me for making sure these guys are healthy, and they are strong, and they are the kind of people, the kind of men that the king wants to serve in his court, in his palace. So he's thinking if he lets these guys not eat this food and they're not nutrition, they don't have the nutrition that they're going to get weak and they're going to have problems. It's not going to be just them that's going to have a problem. It's going to be the chief, because if the king doesn't like what he sees, the king will have his neck literally. So Daniel says, 10 days, that's all I ask. And after 10 days, if we are not as healthy as everybody else, then we'll die. So 10 days go by of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel eating only vegetables and water. And after that 10 days, the chief came back and checked them. They look healthier, they look stronger, they look better than all of the other guys that were eating the king's food. 10 days, that's all it took. And the chief says, okay, continue eating vegetables. 10 days. God blessed these 4 guys because they didn't conform and eat the food that God commanded them not to. In that 10 days, God blessed them, made them healthy because they didn't conform. Daniel and his friends, they go to serve the king's castle. Or not castle, palace. If you'll turn to page 250, we will continue reading on here. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nutrition than any of the other young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and wine, and they drank water and vegetables instead. For these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into the service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them. He found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in the whole kingdom. Because they didn't conform, and they refused to eat food that the king gave them, God blessed them with the wisdom and the knowledge that they needed to impress them. Nebuchadnezzar found them smarter, more intelligent, best, better than any of the other wise men in his court. They didn't conform by eating the food. They knew what diet they needed, and that diet was one that God gave. Today, we are in a foreign land, and all of these things are being set on our table to eat. Whether it's our food, whether it's like gluttony for overeating. But some of the diet has nothing to do with food. Some of our diet today consists of maybe padding our expense account at work. Or if you don't have an expense account, like I don't, maybe padding your timesheet. Or maybe it's gossiping with the neighbors. Or maybe it's late at night when nobody's around, and you turn on that TV show that God knows. Are we conforming to what our culture says? We must refuse to eat the diet of this world. During the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he had a dream. Now this is one of those dreams that you just can't get out of your head. Have you ever had those? You have a dream, maybe over and over, or a dream that you just can't forget about? King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a dream. He couldn't figure out what it meant or what it was about. So he calls his wise men. He says, I want you to tell me about this dream. I want you to interpret it for me. So the wise men say, okay, tell us your dream, and we'll interpret it for you. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar, this is a pretty standard thing that the wise magicians and enchanters were doing in this culture. King Nebuchadnezzar said, if you're truly wise and you can interpret this dream correctly, you'll be able to tell me what I'm dreaming. So they're standing there thinking, no king has ever asked this of me. There's no way that we can tell you what your dream is. This makes Nebuchadnezzar very, very angry. So he says, okay, if you can't tell me my dream, I'm going to send my guards out and I'm going to kill off all the wise men because you're not the wisest thing. So the guards go out and start rounding up all these guys, all these wise men, and they come to Daniel and his friends. And Daniel says, wait, I want to talk to the king. So they take him to the king. And he says, Nebuchadnezzar, if I can tell you your dream and I can interpret it for you, that was all good. So yes, give me the night and I'll do it. So King Nebuchadnezzar gives him a chance. Daniel goes back to his three friends and says, we need to pray about this. We need to petition God and find out what this dream is. So they pray all night long. And God gives Daniel what the dream is and the interpretation. The next morning, Daniel goes back to Nebuchadnezzar and says, okay, I know what your dream was. And he explains the dream. The dream was about a statue. The top of it was gold. The next part was silver. The next part was bronze. And the bottom part was iron and clay. And Daniel explained to the king what that meant. It was a great big statue of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel explained to Nebuchadnezzar each one of these different parts of the statue represents a different kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom was the top, it was the gold. It was the greatest. And each kingdom after that was a little bit less. That was what the dream was. King Nebuchadnezzar was so happy that he threw himself down and worshipped in front of him. And on page 253, and this is just a short one, 253 it says, the king said to Daniel, surely your God is the God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and the revealer, there you go, thank you, of mysteries. For you were able to reveal this mystery. Then he placed Daniel in a high position. And Daniel asked his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego also to be placed in high positions. Notice, because Nebuchadnezzar, he bowed down and he said that God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings. But he didn't say that God is the only God. He didn't say that he was trusting in God alone. He may believe that God is a God, but that is not a far stretch from all the multiple gods that he had in his arsenal where he put all the treasure. So, a little while later in the story, King Nebuchadnezzar decides, You know that dream of the statue with the gold head? That's a pretty cool thing. So he decides to build a statue of himself, 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, out of gold. And when this thing is done and they're at the dedication ceremony, some of his officials decide, you know, we really don't like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're not like this. And they were jealous of him. So they decided they were going to see if they could figure out a way that they could get them in trouble. So what these guys did is they talked to the king, and the king decided every day when the music plays, the trumpets blare, the harps and lyres play, everybody in this great city of Babylon is to bow down and worship the statue. Sure enough, that morning, afternoon, whatever it was, the music started playing. Everybody bowed down towards the statue, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They stood together. They would not bow down. They would not worship this false god. They would not worship at the feet of the Lord. They stood together and honored God. Well, these guys, they take them to, these officials take them to Nebuchadnezzar and say, hey, you said if people didn't bow down, you were going to throw them in this blazing furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are standing before Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar looks at them and says, hey, I'll give you one more chance. When the music plays, you bow down, you'll be okay. If not, you're going to go into this furnace. Music plays, they don't bow down. The king becomes furious. And this is one of my favorite parts of David, page 255. And you don't have your storybook again, but 3:16 and 18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replies to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it. And he will deliver us from your majesty's hands. But even if he does not, and we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you have set up. I love that part. This infuriates the king. Somebody is being disobedient. He feels blatantly disrespectful. So he orders his guards to heat this furnace up. 7 times hotter than normal. So this blazing furnace, they tie Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego up. The biggest guards, they take them, throw them into this furnace. This furnace is so hot that as the guards are trying to get these guys into the furnace, it kills the guards. It burns the guards up. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they fall into this furnace, and the king is standing off and he's watching. And he notices something. He notices there's 4 guys in this furnace. 4 guys. He asks his guards, did we put 3 of them in there? I'm pretty sure I counted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That is 3, unlike my Daniel and then it was 5 earlier. This is 3 guys went into the furnace. 3 guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thrown into this furnace 7 times hotter than normal. And he sees inside this furnace. There's 4 guys. Not only are there 4 guys, these guys are untied. They're walking around. They're talking. Like nothing, just like what we're doing. In this furnace that's 7 times hotter than normal, they are not burning up. God protected them. Shadrach, Meshach, and chose to stand together. And because they did not bow down, and they did not conform to the king's culture, God blessed them. The king commands them, come out, come out, come out. Now, mind you, nobody can go in and get them. Guards already died. So he's saying, come out, come out, come out. And they come out, not a hair on their head was singed. Their clothes were not burned. In fact, they didn't even smell smoke. God was in that fire. Many scholars believe, and I believe with all my heart, that fourth person in that fire was a pretty part of the